Hello, my fellow authors and writers, and welcome to another author interview on Tales from the Wandering Scribe. I am your host, Gabriel Garcia, otherwise known as the Wandering Quill and the Wandering Scribe. Now, before we begin today's episode, I want to give a huge thank you to all of you for all the best wishes and everything. I did not plan on being sick this long, but my voice is now a little bit better. I'm feeling a little bit better, and your support has been, without words, the best. And I'm super excited to get back into making these author interviews. And to start off uh, today's episode, we have a first timer here on the channel. My guest is a native to Arizona and currently lives in Glendale with his wife, his two kids, and his two dogs. He is a construction worker by day and a writer by night. Writing has been a passion for him since he was a teenager, and that passion has only grown as he's gotten older. The one problem he has always faced was that he could never finish writing a story. But then in 2023, he completed the initial draft for The Rising Sun. The Rising Sun is his debut novel and has been a 3-year passion project for him. It is available now on Amazon. When he isn't writing or working under the sun, he can be found spending time with his family, cheering for the Cowboys, chasing the dogs, playing video games, or spending time in the mountains and the forests. So, without further ado, let's give a huge round of applause to first timer here on the channel, Mr. Kevin Wayne. Kevin, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Hey, Gabriel, I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Now, before we dive into your book, The Rising Sun, is there anything else you'd like to share about your background for the viewers and listeners?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. I work in construction, so um, I guess for me, like,
All right.
um,
So, no problem, no problem. So, for people who are just learning about your debut novel, The Rising Sun, what can you give us as a little teaser of your debut novel?
it is a wild ride. It follows the main character, Prince Merrick. Early on in the book, there's I don't spoil it, but a big tragedy, and he's forced to flee his homeland, and he goes to this rival kingdom, and he's raised there by the royal family. And it just follows him. I think the first this book covers 8 years, and over time, like he slowly builds up his place and kind of grows into his own as like a warrior and a leader. He falls in love, saves the world a couple, not world, but kingdom a couple times. Um, it's a fun story. Definitely a brutal world,
Hmm.
but also has there's beauty to it.
All right, nice. So now let's backpedal a little bit into your personal life. So, what would you say was the aha moment when you realized you wanted to tell stories and be an author?
One of them was when I think it was fourth grade, maybe fifth. We did this little project where we all wrote our own books, and this company, like, they sent us these sheets and we filled them out, drew pictures on them, and then they brought us back like a hardcover copy of our book. I don't even remember what mine was about. Looking back, it was probably like really cheesy. Um, but yeah, that was kind of like one of the first like big moments. And then as I grew older, like I just really enjoyed writing. Like in seventh grade, at the end of the interview, our teacher gave us like this free, like do your own project kind of thing. And he was like, if you're writing a story, maybe like 10 pages, I think I wrote like 40 or 50 pages.
Mm.
Um, and then I always enjoyed working on stories, but like you said in my bio, I always struggled with finishing them up until this one.
All right. So now let's fast forward ahead. So when you began writing the initial draft of The Rising Sun, what were the initial goals in mind, as well as the needs you want to satisfy for your future readers?
I think the biggest goal for me, honestly, was to finish the book.
Mhm.
Uh, that was like the ultimate one. Like I don't even care if it's good at this point. I just want to finish it so I can say it. Um, but actually, it originally started as one book, and then as I started working on it, I realized that there was no way that this was going to fit into one book unless I took it and it became like a book that's like Game of Thrones length or double.
All
Um,
right.
so definitely like, okay, well, it's gonna be three books, so now I have to finish, but I finished first, so we're good. Um, but to the second part of your question, um, like I think readers are gonna find like I don't hold back.
Mm.
Like whatever I I write is what I want to be in the book because so like an indie writer, like I don't have like agents who say, oh, you need to cut this or you need to make it like young adult or
Right.
so the book that they're getting is like 100% my vision. Um, and like I can tell you in this book, they're like I don't hold back. Like everything is very real. Like the dangers are real. It's very um, visceral.
All right. All right. And what has been the initial reaction and feedback of The Rising Sun? Have they been positive, mixed? And from these initial reviews, have they in a way validated your promise, or rather goal, that you start off in the beginning with this book?
So far, the reviews have been good. I've got a couple on both Goodreads and on Amazon, so it's been nice to see those. And then I worked with my beta readers. I had 5 beta readers, and the feedback was pretty good overall. Obviously, as I was doing that, I had to go through and I was like, "Oh, you missed this."
Hmm.
So I kind of go and make little tweaks and improvements to get it ready. But overall, the feedback has been good.
Well, that's good. That's really great to hear, especially for us indie authors. Reviews are more important than anything else. And I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on this question. As said in your bio, The Rising Sun was a 3-year project to get off the ground. And I imagine, life gets in the way, things happen, things change. The initial draft may have been different from the originally conceived idea. And after hours and hours of edits, revisions, finding a cover artist or an illustrator whose style matches the tone of the book, and then presenting it out there on the digital stage, there is sort of like a little sense of anxiety where it's like, okay, is this going to be received well? Are people really going to enjoy it? And that voice in the back of every author's mind is present. So for you, Kevin, have you ever had those thoughts of anxiety or imposter syndrome? And if not, what has continued to discipline you to continue sharing the story and continue the world building of the Rising Sun?
I don't think you can uh, rant without having that feeling of like the imposter. What's it called imposter voice,
Yeah.
imposter syndrome.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't think that's even possible. Yeah, I know for me, like I definitely had a lot of self doubt, like leading up to it. Like, is this good? Do I add more? Um, did I clean that up enough with my edits? And it's just a constant battle of, do I keep going or do I just, say screw it? Um, so it was a constant, like a constant battle. And I hate editing. That is the worst.
Yes.
I enjoy writing the book. I hate like building the book, like the editing, like the getting ready for publishing. That part is
Hmm.
exhausting.
Yes, it is. It sure is. So, what would you say is can still continue to motivate you to tell this story? And then going now to the business side of being an author. Now, as you said before, that you are an indie author, an independent author, but did the idea of traditional publishing ever come up in a discussion when the story was near completion? And after doing research, would you have still gone with independent publishing?
So for that, I did look a little bit into like getting it traditionally published. Um, there was definitely like some, I guess, like doubt. Like I don't even know if I could get, because like you hear all these stories about how they receive like 10,000 like different like applicants we put in to get their book
Right.
published, and it's just like, okay, that's way more than like I didn't even know how many people want to write books.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it definitely crossed my mind, and I think for me, one of the things was that I liked with the whole indie side was I could tell my own story as I wanted to.
Right.
I didn't have to really like make adjustments based on what like the publisher wanted. Like if they were to say, "Hey, we want this to be for young adults," or
Mm.
we want more of a focus on the romance,
Right.
um, or we want this like we want you to kind of all the stuff when the main character is younger and just focus on adult.
Hmm. Okay. That makes sense. That makes complete sense. And that actually ties perfectly into the next business question, which is the audience. Now, as I've said numerous times in previous interviews, viewers and listeners, we are the initial audience of our own stories because we know these stories better than anyone else. But when we make the decision to publish and market to an audience, we really have to consider, okay, what genre is this book going to be in? Uh, and in that genre, what audience are you really going to be targeting? And that takes a lot of trial and error. So for you, Kevin, in your opinion, A, how important is it for an author to really understand who their audience is? And secondly, do you have a good understanding of your audience for The Rising Sun?
I think that's something that's really important for authors, especially new ones, to
Mm-hmm.
figure out, um, because they don't want to put something out to their audience that isn't meant for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't want to like target like an audience meant for like adult crime and then send out some sci-fi love story. It probably won't be well received. You
Yeah.
want your audience to enjoy the book, and obviously anybody can read it, but you want your target audience to enjoy it the most.
Definitely. Definitely. And the target audience is very, very important. And we actually come back to them in another question. Now we're going to go on to one that I'm really intrigued to hear your thoughts on. Now, Kevin, as I'm sure you definitely agree, as authors, we're always inspired by, you know, excuse me, the literacy titans of our generation, people we've grown up reading from George R. Martin. C.S. Lewis, J.K. Rowling, J.R. Tolkien. Uh, who's another one? Oh shoot, Stephen King, and so forth. And I'm sure you've also seen, you know, independent authors whose books have had a tagline, "The next so and so." Now, from a reader's perspective, that is very intriguing and possibly good, but from an author's perspective, that's not really helpful. As one of my guests said, when we have that tagline, "Oh, the next so and so," that gives the reader a preconceived notion of A, how the characters are going to be depicted, B, how the story is going to develop, and C, the writing style and prose. And that is not true. We are all trying to make our own voice. So, for you, Kevin, who would you say have who would you say are the authors who have in a way inspired you or at least motivated you to help you find your own voice, but going back to the second one, you want to find your own voice, you don't want to copy anyone else or at least try to imitate someone else.
Yeah. Obviously, you don't want to like try and be just like them. Um, for me, like some of the bigger ones were you mentioned three of them, but Stephen King, um, Martin, and Tolkien. Those are all very big name writers, and if you tell someone the name, they're going to know at least one of the
Right.
books that they wrote. Um, J.K. Rowling, she had a small impact. More when I was a teen. What's his name? Anthony Ryan. He's another
Ah, okay.
good one I enjoy reading. Um, Stephen Pressfield, Brad Thorne. Um, but like with them, it's more like each of those authors has like something that they're really good at. And obviously, you can't be good at everything, but you kind of want to try and like kind of look at what they've done and say, okay, what lessons can I learn? So like
Right.
with Stephen King, like if you've ever read The Shining, everyone knows how that book ends with the dad.
Mm,
Um, but when you're reading that book, it's almost heartbreaking because you know where it's going to end, but like you really sympathize um, with the dad in that book, and it's really hard to see like his descent into madness. And in
mm,
almost every Stephen King book, like he is really good with characters. Like he built some of the best characters, in my opinion. And then Tolkien, you obviously have the world building. I mean, the
right.
guy invented his own language,
Yeah,
um,
that's true.
and like an entire history of it. Martin is just like a master storyteller, not the best writer, um, but builds really good stories. Anthony Ryan, um, definitely with his first book, it was like immediately he draws you in, and so you kind of want to look at all those and say like, okay, I really like what Stephen King did with characters. How did he do it? And then kind of try and like incorporate that into writing, or see different ways that you can kind of emulate that.
Right. It almost kind of reminds me of like another discussion. I'm probably sure you may have seen this on, Instagram or Bookstagram, where an author would say, if you enjoy this book, then you will enjoy, this book. And, from a consumer's perspective, it's like, okay, I'm a little intrigued. But then it comes back to, the discussion we were just having, where it's like, is it really fair to compare two different books from two different authors with two different, vastly different writing styles and prose? Is that really fair? So, what is your little 2 cents on sort of like that? And I'm wondering if you've seen that on Bookstagram yourself.
I have seen it, and it's same idea with like movies and music. If you like this, you'll also like this. Um, in theory, it's nice, but I don't exactly like the concept because every
Hmm.
book is unique,
Right.
unless it's like a plagiarist. But you're writing your own book. Like you could have a similarity here, but then they go an entirely different way.
Definitely. Definitely. And now coming back to the audience and the readership and going back to what you said, that your book is pretty much you. Like what people will read in the Rising Sun is what you present. And when it comes to readership, readership is, in my opinion, different from the audience because you can market to a specific audience, but at the end of the day, who exactly is going to read this book? And there have been authors that I've talked to who have said that some books are either marketed to new adult, young adult, or just adult in general. But sometimes there have been books that have been misclassified, like some uh, young adult books have a little bit more spice or adult themes to it, and vice versa. So for you, Kevin, if you had to put it in a category, where would the Rising Sun be? Would it be more closer to the new adult and adult fiction, or somewhere in the middle for young adults and new adults to read?
I would say along the lines of like between new adult and adult. Uh, Young adult might be kind of pushing it unless it's like kind of like I'm not sure what even like the age range is for young adult.
Right.
Um, like I would say like if this were a movie, it would be rated R, so probably 17.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. And the reason why I bring this up, viewers, is because it is important to discuss, because there have been many books, as I said before, that have been misclassified as being targeted for one audience, but upon reading, it's supposed to be for this audience. So it is very important. This again is the business side, really fine tuning and really understanding, okay, who's the audience and who is exactly going to read a story like this, which then leads into the biggest one, which is probably my most favorite question to ask. So I'll give you a little bit of build up for this, Kevin. And I'm sure you agree with the first part I'm going to say, which is for first time authors, it's very easy to become swayed by the glitz and glamour of the publishing industry. Because there are, as I say, there are two paths. There is to be an author and to be known as an author. And for me, to be an author is an individual dedicated to the art of storytelling, where they're not solely motivated by capital, but it's nice to get some. To be known as an author is an individual dedicated to marketing their book and promoting their book on every social media platform, trying to do book signings and all that stuff. Now, whatever path an, a first time author goes on is their own choice, and both have their own set of hurdles. But I feel 9 times out of 10, first time authors always go down the second path, which is to be known as an author, which leads to the realization that I've learned from past authors who have told me this, which is that in the publishing world, there is no guarantee that your debut novel is going to start your legacy as an author. Now, in all things, there are exceptions. There are authors who are able to live off of the success of their debut novel and work on new stories. But on the other side of the coin, you have authors who fall, rise again, and fall hard. And in the process of trying to make money, their passion for writing dies. And ultimately, that comes down to the long term goals. So Going back to you, Kevin, in your own opinion, how important is it for first time authors to really understand this concept that in the publishing world, there is no guarantee that your debut novel is going to be the start of your legacy, but it should not deter you from creating stories if being a storyteller slash author is something you truly want to be?
I think that's honestly huge. Um, we live in a world of instant gratification, and so like definitely more of the younger group, they think, "Oh, I made this. Where's my reward?" Um, when really it's a long process,
Right.
and it's going to take time, and not everyone gets that. And so when it is hard, like if you don't have the drive or the passion to create stories, then it's going to wear you down. Like it's that passion and the drive that gets you through. Like if your first book has bad reviews or you don't get a lot of sales, like it helps get you through that and pushes you on to the next one.
Mm-hmm. That is very, very true. And also to add to that, grit becomes talent because you only get better over time. And it may be our 10th, 15th, or 20th book that really gets our name out there. I've actually had an author on the show a year or two ago where her book, Season of the Dragon, was the book that really got her name out there. And when that happened, she pretty much told me what she told her fans. It's like, hey, if you enjoy Season of the Dragon, check out my other work to see my growth as an author, because then you get new fans, you get new readers, and that's how we grow as authors. We continuously grow because at the very end, our words are going to be the last testament of who we are. They are, in a sense, our immortality because all the giants of the past, the reason why we still talk about them, like J.R. Tolkien, his work has become so ingrained in society. You cannot not mention him in discussions of like fantasy, world building, storytelling, whatsoever. And I think at the end of the day, all of us want to have that sense of immortality when we are gone. And also, as indie authors, it's also important to make connections, meet new people, and really learn and understand the business. So, for you, Kevin, who would you say have been the indie authors you've met on social media who have really helped you understand the business a little bit better?
There's been a few. The biggest one, um, we started out as writing buddies. Her name is Nomi Palmer. Um, she writes like fantasy, romance. It's
Romance
almost like a
fantasy.
soap opera.
Okay.
Um, and so I met her about a year ago, and she was able to help me through this whole process, like of me trying to figure out like, oh, how does this work, and how do you format, how do you do this, um, what's the best way to market it, uh, like just different little tools that I could use to get everything out there and into the world. Um,
Nice.
and then obviously, like as I've been um, on Instagram, you meet other authors and you kind of see what they've done.
Mm-hmm.
You can see, oh, like I like what they did with their cover. How are they engaging their followers and stuff like that.
Right. Definitely, definitely. And in addition to, of course, friends and family, are there anyone else you'd like to give a shout out who has really helped you and really been in your corner since the beginning of this journey as an author?
The biggest one is obviously my wife. I know she's family, but at the end of the day, she's always been my biggest fan. Um, when I started writing, like I said, I was like, babe, I'm gonna finish this damn book. I don't care what I got to do. And since day one, she's been supporting me. Um, I gave her chapters and she read it. She helped me edit. Uh, I know I'm not always easy to work with, so it's definitely a little. It could be challenging. Challenging times. She'd be like, "Well, um, like, well, you can make this improvement." I'm like, "No, no, no," and then about a day later, I'm like, "I see what you mean."
Nice.
Um, so yeah, definitely that one. Um, and then like even my boss at work, I told my boss about it in a meeting we were having one day. I didn't think anything about it, and then I did my release, and he was like, "Dude, I got your book." I'm like, "Well, wasn't expecting that." So
Nice. That's very, very cool, Kevin. That's really, really cool. You have this really positive support group because I think at the end of the day, all of us independent authors really, really need that, and not in a sense of like self gratification, but just to know that these are people that we can fall upon, rely on, and those who can help us if we're in a rut. Now, the last two questions I'm going to combine together. And the first one is, looking back on your journey as an author, how different would it be if you were not an author, if you did not go through with the creation of the Rising Sun, if it was still an idea in your head? And secondly, what is your word of wisdom to other first time authors who are watching or listening to this video right now?
can you explain? Sorry, can you explain the first question?
Of course, of course. So the first question is, how different would your life be if you were not an author? If the Rising Sun was just still an idea in your head.
Um, well, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm still working, so that would be different. For me, though, one of the things I love about writing is really good stress relief for me.
Mm,
Um, I can write for a couple hours, and then like even if I'm super stressed, like for that 2 3 hour period, I'm only focused on the writing. So it's been really good and beneficial um, for my mental health and just kind of helping with that stress. Obviously, sometimes it adds stress,
mm,
but overall, it's been really good for that. And it's given me like another hobby, so it's
nice.
definitely a plus. For a word of wisdom, I think ultimately it would just be just right. Even if you only sit down and write a paragraph, like that's better than you just get something on the page and keep moving. Figure out the way that works best for you. Like just because these 10 authors said, "Oh, we do it all this way," like do it your own way. Figure out what works best for you, and then just write and keep going and get into a rhythm. So that way, like if you do not write one night, it's like, "Oh, I didn't write," so I need to go and at least get something on.
Perfectly said, Kevin. Perfectly said. And this is a perfect ending to another amazing author interview here on the channel. Again, a huge thank you to our guest, Mr. Kevin Wayne, for coming on the show. Kevin, where can people find and engage with you on social media? And where can people go out and buy a copy of your book, The Rising Sun?
They can follow me on Instagram at Kevin Wayne the writer, and then I'm also on Goodreads. Right now, my book is on sale at Amazon. They can get it in paperback or an ebook. By the end of the year, I'm hoping to also be on Barnes and Noble.
Nice. I will link all those down below. in the description of this video. Thank you all very much for joining us for another author interview. Again, a huge thank you to our guest, Mr. Kevin Wayne, for coming on the show and telling us all about his journey as an author and his debut novel, The Rising Sun. And before I forget, viewers and listeners, there's only a few weeks left, or rather, I should say, a week and a few days until the release of my third book, Michael, Last Angel of Earth. Now, if you would like to get this custom print cover of Michael, Last Angel of Earth, all you have to do is go to the bio in my Instagram or here on YouTube, pre order a copy, message me with proof of purchase, and I will send you a file with the custom print cover of Michael, Last Angel of Earth. And if you want me to sign it, I'll be more than happy to do an e-sign. I will also link that down below just in case. Well, viewers and listeners, thank you all so very much. Again, thank you for the love and support. It's good to be back here on the show. And thank you all so very much. And again, a huge thank you to our guest, Mr. Kevin Wayne, for coming on the show. Kevin, you've been an incredible guest, and I wish you the very best on your journey from one author to another.
Best of luck with your own release.
Thank you. And as always, viewers and listeners, make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below what was your favorite part of the interview. And as always, this has been the Wandering Scribe and the Wandering Quill signing out.